Let's play some hockey tonight.
Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Gouche Live right here at the Hockey Hall of Fame. No, we're next to the Hockey Hall of Fame. We are at the bottom line, of course, just had a chat with Wayne Cowley, and things are happening. Oktoberfest is coming back to the bottom line, and you'll see my producer in his lederhosen one more time. That was absolutely classic. I got a great show. You know why? Because I got one of my favorite dudes. He's the OG of hockey. His name is Rob Schremp. Robbie, OG.
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, I'm really good. Does OG stand for old guard? Old gangsta? What does it stand for?
Original gangster, buddy. OG Astroman.
I thought old. It was Brady Leovold that popped up the other day and said that. And so you are absolutely an original. There's no question. As you know, you're at a rink, so I wanted to only spend a few minutes. And the reason why I wanted you on today is I watched this kid, Edward Sale from Czechia, do some moves with the puck that I've just never seen before. And I thought of you because you are the original. There's no question. Guys like Zach Bell, Pavel Barber, they all say they watched you as a kid do these tricks. And I wanted to ask you specifically, before we talk about your new company, is this the future? Are we going to see more and more guys, flipping the puck over a defenseman, catching it in midair, taking a shot and scoring a goal? Is that what the future of hockey is all about?
I think so. Personally, first of all, there's a couple sides of it. There's the entertainment side of it and being different, and people like seeing that. It's creative. It's great. So, and then the opposite side is objectively, with the way that players are, how fast they are now, how good their sticks are. Like, you got to find different ways to exit. So you can't be angled or, sort of angled off or take your time and space away. If you start to use the airspace, those are exits for you. Whether it's flipping it over a guy's head, or I talk about it all the time, when you pick the puck up like a lacrosse stick, Gouche, you played, like if you were backing up and I came down on you on a one-on-one, instead of this puck in front of me stick handling, I have it on my hip like a lacrosse stick. What would you do defensively? You know what I mean? Like, think about that objectively. Like, what could you possibly do?
Yeah.
Swing your stick kind of, maybe. So it kind of just changes the dynamic a little bit, and it gives you, as an offensive player, if you can learn how to do that, again, it gives you a lot more escapes, a lot more outs, a lot more options with the puck. So it's like a couple sides of it, And then, again, the first thing I said about it being entertaining, it's different, People like seeing this, what other creative stuff people can do with the puck, So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see.
You may not know this name, but Corey Nielsen introduced me to this. He was a tall defenseman, played in the East Coast League, a little bit in the AHL. I signed him up to come to Timmendorfer Strand back in, must have been 94, 95. And he was like 6'4" at that time. Big kid, sweet hands. Everybody thought he was going to be a gangster as far as, a tough guy. But he had sick hands, very similar to you. And we were doing some shootouts practice, and nobody had seen this move before. And he did exactly what you did, skated full speed, got to the blue line, picked the puck up and cradled it and put it over backhand in the top shelf. And we all said, whoa, where did that come from? And then, of course, I got to see you do it numerous times. Okay, so I want to go into, obviously, you're teaching. We're now teaching kids how to do this. And you've got a new company called Space Force Hockey. Talk to us about that and what people can expect these kids to be able to do with the puck.
Yeah, so inside the community, what it is essentially is a hockey development academy, so to speak, using blockchain. And our program, every day, what I do is I go in there and every day I upload a new piece of content, video content, teaching players different things, shooting, passing, and also this aspect of using the air of this hockey rink space, picking the puck up, using it. Where would you use it? Why would it be effective? So I think that's now the kids are starting to see it all over. You're seeing the Michigan attempted numerous times. If you watch any game, I'm here to showcase. And Massachusetts, UMass Lowell, I'm watching these games. The Michigan's already been tried 4 times. So it's happening. So it's now, for me, it's a great thing because now I can start to educate players on where to use this, why it works, and what makes sense. So it's not so much of a gimmick anymore.
Right.
It's a reality. It's coming in our game. And if you want to use it as a player, here's how, here's why, and here's what makes sense. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
inside of that community, that's what I have every day. I upload content. And it's not all about just picking the puck up. That's just one piece of content in there, one section of education to the players and the video content. So it's really cool. I'm excited about the Space Force.
Hey, I know you're really busy, so before I let you go, are there any other names I should get used to? Obviously, the Michigan, are these now going to be trailblazers with some of your moves? I don't think anybody put names on it, but now we're name tagging it. So is there something else that's pretty cool out there?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I heard the slang terms, but inside of our NFT space, that's what this project is. It's again blockchain, but NFT is your ticket in. So we're also going to be calling play certain things, where people in the community are going to be cosmonauts or some kind of fun name to use to let people know that they're in the community and they're part of this, futuristic program. And then when they're out and about and they're playing in their, whatever tournaments and stuff, hopefully having these tags like OG Astro mitts we came up with was pretty cool. You hear silky mitts or sick mitts. I thought of something different, futuristic, and something fun. Just to have a different look at the game. So I don't know. We'll come up with some stuff, Gouche, and maybe we can come up with something, a new move while we're in Australia, pop something off and give it a cheeky name while we're together.
I got one right out, the kangaroo. That's one you got to develop when we go over to Australia. Hey, listen, a lot of great comments. Hey, did you have any trick shots while you played Gouche? Yeah, my trick shot was shooting at the net and scoring. That was the best I had. But I did have one move, and I know that you have this one too. I'd come down on a goaltender, and 90% I wouldn't go to my forehand. I'd go to my backhand, and I had one of those banana sticks, and I could literally from the heel top shelf it. That was my big move because a lot of goaltenders weren't ready for it. So I know that we'll come up with a name for that. I can't thank enough. Sebastian Forche's watching, saying, hey, I love it. And he says, I needed better hands. I think you needed more than just your hands, buddy. All right, Robbie Schremp, thank you. We'll have you on next week. I'm really looking forward to having you and Danny Severette. Your show is truly amazing. Love to have you on here talk about it.
Sounds good, Gouche. It's always good seeing you, buddy. Have a great day.
All right. Hey, Robbie Schremp, Space Force Hockey. If you have not seen it, if you've not seen him with what he can do with the puck, but I'm really kind of taken back right now. And the reason is we've got all these crazy moves with the stick and the puck. I've seen Brady Leavold do things with a puck and a ball. Why don't they have a name for it? Let's get some names. The Gangsta. I love it. Maybe the Gangsta move. All right, listen, we are excited. We go from Robbie Schremp, who's the trickster of all hockey. Then we go to Stephen Ellis, who knows everything about hockey. And of course, with my producer, Jordan LaRoche. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Ellis and the producer, Jordan LaRoche.
There is no way I can top Robbie Schremp. He's a legend. Watching his videos on YouTube, that made me want to try deking, and I can't do any of it myself.
Well, obviously he's a London Knighter. That's where I met him. I saw him play in the Memorial Cup championship team. What a great team. They beat Crosby, not Gretzky, a little before his time. And that's just an amazing to watch him play. He wasn't the greatest skater, but he could move. But what he could do with the puck was absolutely masterful.
Yeah, and you look at that, and I've talked to young players. I remember asking like Trevor Zegras at one point. It's like you're obviously a good dangler. You're really creative. Kind of what got you started there? And he's like watching YouTube clips, and he mentioned guys like Datsuk, and then he mentioned Robbie Schremp. So he's part of the reason why we see guys try these creative plays is because of watching the last guard of players do it on YouTube and saying like, this is cool, let's try it. And then obviously now everyone could score a lacrosse goal. We've seen even defensemen do it out of random European leagues.
Well, and I think if I'm not mistaken, you'll remember this, probably the New York Rangers. They only have the one name right now, the Michigan, but that one, I think it was Mikhailuk, the defenseman for New York Rangers back in the playoffs when he went between his legs. I don't know if you guys remember that. Well, you may be too young, but they had like 30 shots in overtime. You don't remember what I'm talking about?
No.
Steven? Oh my God.
No, I'm not sure.
You got to watch this. In an overtime shootout, I think he was number 30. He went big, tall defenseman.
Malik.
Malik.
Yes.
He goes between his legs and top shelves. Is there a name for that?
Between the leg shot. There you go.
Well, I love it. Hey, listen, the reason why I brought Robbie Schremp on, Steve, I don't know if you noticed or heard it from the beginning, and the reason why I have you on is because I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, the new wave of players. I know you'll be watching a Hlinka Gretzky series. I've been watching it quite closely. I know Jordan has been really busy getting his new show, The Practice Squad, coming up today, isn't it?
Yep, we're recording today.
So I know you haven't been spending a lot of time on watching hockey. You've been doing more NFL football and prepping for it. But Stephen, I want to ask you this question. This kid, I don't know if you'll know the name, Edward Sala from the Czech. What a talent. This guy is sick. His hands are ridiculous. Tell me about him, because he made a move that kind of sparked me to talk about all these new waves of kids and what they do with the puck today.
Yeah, he's a very talented player. This Czechia team has got some good talent. And of course, we've got the World Juniors coming up, and I'll be going to Edmonton for that, and it'll be cool to see kind of what players could do there. But at the Hlinka, it's been kind of a nice appetizer. And we've seen some pretty talented moves. In Saleh's case, he's just got the speed. He's got the moves. He clearly knows how to get around players. Maybe not the most physical player, not the most complete player yet at this point, but he's a guy that's going to be drafted quite early, I think, in 2023. And when you look at the 2022 draft, a lot of talent. This one, though, is a lot deeper and a lot more high-end talent overall. This could be a very, very good draft. So I'm really looking forward to what this group's capable of. And Saleh's having a good show. Hlinka overall hasn't been my favorite tournament. It never really is, because it's usually when Canada's in it, they're kind of destroying. They've scored, I think, 23 goals and allowed 1 in 2 games. They're winning 4-0 over Switzerland, which, by the way, do you know who the backup goalie was for Switzerland who played the second half of that game?
I do not.
It was Iwan Huet, Cristobal Huet's son.
There you go.
That's right. Good call. Hey, listen, I want to go to you for a second on this. Yesterday, the Canadians played the Slovakia. This is an easy question, even though you didn't see the game. I know, Stephen, you watched it. 65-20 in shots for the Canadians. That is a dominance. And I wanted to ask you, as a goaltender, if you've only got 20 shots and you're playing a weak team, what's your psyche? But if you're the goalie that looks like Denny Lemieux, if you remember Denny Lemieux in the movie where he comes out and he's shell-shocked, how do you feel as a goaltender with those numbers of shots?
I mean, when you're on the shot that side where you're only getting 20 shots, I mean, I was a bit of a psychopath. I would have full-on conversations with myself in the net.
You still do.
I mean, you're just commentating on the play, just saying, "Oh, he's open. Oh, that'd be a good play right there." But when you're on the receiving end of a 65 shot game, I've had a couple of them. It's it's not a great feeling, because it kind of just feels like you're out there against the world. But at the same time, you're getting taps on the pads. You're getting your D-man talking to you. Keep it up.
Even though you've got 10 behind you?
Even if you do have 10 behind you, it's just worry about the next one. Goaltenders right now are good enough in the sense that they are able to just move on from the past.
So, Stephen, I wanted to ask you this question, and we'll get on to the World Juniors and a little bit into the hockey, obviously the NHL right now. But watching this Olympic tournament, I've been 9 o'clock is when usually the best teams are playing, or Canada's played a couple times, obviously beating Switzerland 14-0. What is it about? Why is Canada the States lost 4-1 to the Finns? But Canada just looks so dominant. What does it mean to other teams that they know they're going up against a team that you're going to get 65 shots, you're going to lose 10-0? What's the development? I thought the world was getting more parity, that we're going to start seeing Germany be better. They don't look very good. Switzerland looks god awful. What's going on out there in the world of hockey?
Well, it's tough because in this tournament in general, the reason why Canada's won it almost every year they've played is because it's the one time where Canada puts their best prospect team out there. And it's not their best group this year necessarily, because some guys who were juniors and stuff like that. Connor Bedard could have been on this team. Think about that for a second. So when you go to that, Canada just can play in this tournament and just dominate and just put on a show. And we got what we got with this group. However, the United States, they don't send their best team. They send because their best players are getting prepared to play for the league season, so they don't send their U18 national team that plays together all year. They're sending basically a select team, which is nowhere as good. Russia not being in this tournament obviously really waters down this, because Russia's they won the last 2 tournaments, so that we know that they were going to be one of the better teams. And so for Canada to kind of come out here, this is kind of what we'd expect. Canada never brings their absolute greatest players of the World Juniors because a lot of those players are already in the NHL. And as a result, like this year, like think about Canada if they had Shane Wright, who just got drafted, Owen Power, and Cole Perfetti, and they brought those guys to the World Juniors this year. It'd be stupid. So Canada rarely ever gets the best team they possibly can at these tournaments. The U18s are the closest, or the Hlinka Gretzky's the closest they can, and obviously we're seeing they're kind of making everyone look bad right now, and it can't be great for those countries. But I think it also exposes weaknesses. I know a lot of people out of Switzerland are saying, like, you know what, we've got problems, and it's not improving year after year at this point. And that's kind of what we're seeing right here.
Hey, listen, you're watching Gouche Live. We're at the bottom line. I'm with my producer, Jordan Rosh. And, of course, we're talking with Stephen from the Hockey News. Your father makes a very good point out of Thailand where, unlike many tournaments, as you've just told us, Canada gets to send their best in the Hlinka. It's a good benchmark where Canada is, and that's right. Now we're going to watch the World Juniors coming up starting next week, and we're going to start questioning, is this team as good as it was the year before, all that sort of stuff. But it's right. You know, a lot of the good players are now moving out of being able to play in the juniors, and they're moving to their pro teams. How excited are you right now, August, to be watching hockey at this level? The World Hockey Juniors are going to be played in Edmonton. I'll ask you that question, and don't answer yet, Stephen, because I got to add to that question for you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like remnants of the World Cup of Hockey we had a few years back as well. I mean, it's just another treat that we get at the end of the hockey season. And I mean, I think as people who talk about the game, I think we kind of need it at this point. Exactly. It's just something more to talk about. So I am really excited for the tournament next week.
All right, Stephen, I want to add to that. Obviously, it's happening next week, starting next week. My concern is only the fact, will this Hockey Canada story that just seems to get worse and worse every day or every week, minimally, is that going to be cast a black shadow on this tournament? Or as somebody asked me today on a radio show, I said, listen, these young boys, these young men have been taught to shut the noise out and focus on the ultimate goal of winning the championship. Don't worry about what's around you. Don't look in the rearview mirror. What's your take on that?
It's think regardless, it's hard for these players to kind of ignore it all. I know that when Mason McTavish was announced as the captain, it was like all the questions were about Hockey Canada. It wasn't about what's going on kind of at this tournament or even being named captain. So it's obviously tough. Like obviously these players weren't involved, but there's still something where we don't want to see more incidents that we saw in 2003 or 2018. And it's something that I think Hockey Canada, at least going forward, the way that it is right now, has to continue to really lock things down for the players and really teach them, like, we can't be like, you can't do this. You can't do what you can't be going committing sexual assaults or anything like that. You gotta. Obviously, yeah, these players were not involved in 2018, and some of these guys weren't even born in 2003. But it's something where we never want to see this again, and we know that those are not isolated incidents, those two in particular. It's going to be hard to kind of ignore it, but I think it's I don't know if there's ever been a worse time for Hockey Canada to host back-to-back major international tournaments than when everything's going on right now.
Yeah, no question. Hey, listen, a big shout out to Matthew Meisner, of course, Robert Wine, John, Al Kerr, of course. Thank you for joining on the show, and Barry Shelley. Always a pleasure to have you guys here on Gouche Live, obviously at lunch at the bottom line. Hey, listen, let's move from obviously these great tournaments that are going, one's happening, one's going to happen. We'll do a show specifically on the World Juniors. I want to get into some of the NHL noise that's out there. Jordan, I'll start with you. Obviously, I want to ask the question again, the Nazem Kadri theory. Like, there's not a lot of chatter. I told you that I read on the internet, he may be going to the Islanders. What's out there right now?
I haven't seen much since Monday, but I mean, I'm kind of getting the sense now, the longer this goes, you have to think about Colorado potentially moving some money to be able to bring him in. We look at, I think Calgary's still a potentially good option, and the Islanders too as well. But right now, it's mostly going to be speculation. I don't think we're going to get anything concrete up until the signing actually happens.
Steven, anything you're hearing out there?
The Islanders were my pick from the start. Actually, that was the team I thought he'd be going to. It kind of made a lot of sense. And the Islanders are a better team than I think they're given credit for. Because like last year, if you look at the numbers of that team, Ilya Sorokin was amazing. And I don't think he got kind of any of the because like if you look at his advanced stats, he was better than Shesterkin in a lot of major categories. So that's a guy that I think this team could be really good still. And then you throw in Kadri would be good. But regardless,
Barzell needs that support.
Yeah, and you finally get the support, and it'd be kind of funny for the Islanders fans to go and get Kadri, who was kind of like a guy that the Leafs let go, and after the Leafs kind of stole John Tavares and everything like that. But when you look at this, no matter where he goes, the teams are going to have to make moves to make this happen. So I'm not worried that it's taken so long. I would like that signing to kind of get out of the way so we could stop hearing the same things over and over again. And Mike Stevens for the Hockey News actually wrote a good article kind of like looking at some teams that could potentially go get him. He's actually on the other side of this camera smiling. But anyways, I think that the Islanders are going to be where he goes, but it's still going to require some moves. They still have to think about Noah Dobson. If I had to guess, Beauvillier is gone, but who else is gone? And at what point, like Varlamov would be a great guy to get out of there, but then you need a decent backup goalie, and there's no decent backup on the market right now. So I think kind of no matter what, they're in a tough spot. I still think that that's a team that's going to make the biggest effort for it. Although we know Lou Lamoriello does not like facial hair. Kadri has great facial hair. I hope that doesn't suffer.
That's going to sour the event. Hey, your facial hair is back.
Somewhat. Not for long, though.
Well, wait till you see the Plastic Squad new logo. It's outstanding. Hey, Stephen, I want to build on, obviously, the NHL and what's going on in Calgary. Mangiapane just signed a 3-year deal. I think it was like 14 mil, something like that. That's a great signing. But of course, we haven't had an opportunity to talk to you about Tkachuk leaving, Gaudreau leaving, the kind of the sour taste in people's mouths that Americans are leaving and going because it's not good enough. The city's great. The fans are great, so you can't criticize that at all. Or the fact that, through COVID, you couldn't get your fan. I get all that, but you're a professional athlete making big bucks, and these fans are supporting you. They walk, and basically we thought Travelli was going to crumble under the pressure. I think he's done a masterful job. I think getting Huberdeau and Uyghur is great. Signing up Mangiapane is a really important move. What are your thoughts on this Calgary Flames team? I actually think they're in a better position today than they were with Johnny Gaudreau and, of course, Tkachuk, when two guys that maybe were questionable of wanting to stay there.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they're a better team. But obviously, if you're looking at you got rid of Tkachuk and you bring in another 100-point guy in Huberdeau, and you got to hope Huberdeau could still be that guy because he was very good with Barkov, very good with whoever he played with. So you got to hope he can do that in Calgary, which – I don't think he hits 100 points next year. I also don't think Gouche hits 100 points next year in Columbus, and I don't think maybe he'll ever hit 100 points in Columbus based off the way the team's made up. But even like a 90-point season there is still very good considering the players he's playing with. And I still think it's way too early to say kind of how that trade's going to play out because I love Uyghur. I think he's a very solid defenseman. He makes that blue line better, and we didn't expect that player of that caliber to be able to trade like that. The issue here is getting those guys signed when their contracts are up. And that's going to be a problem. And if it was already hard to keep those two guys there in Tkachuk and Gouche, you're going to have to do a lot of convincing to keep those two guys there. Especially, a lot of people are saying, like, Huberdeau grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. Could he go to Montreal? Now he's a UFA. Obviously, that's just Habs fans being Habs fans. But I do think that there's something where they're going to need to lock those guys up, or else that trade's going to look horrible.
No, hang on. Let me interrupt you there. No. But the parts that they can maybe get back for these two if they decide that they're not going to want to come. But Huberdeau, yes, we saw what Pierre-Luc Dubois did with Montreal, the speculation he was going to be there too. Do you not think that Huberdeau's a player that will really shine under the Sutter regime? That is a good, well-coached team, even though at the beginning of it I was really questioning it. They've got Markstrom in net. Huberdeau is getting older. I think he's a better player all around. I think you brought that up, Jordan, that he's in a better situation than Tkachuk right at this moment. Maybe not long-term because of his age. But do you not think that they're going to fall in love with the city of Calgary and the emotional fan base that's there?
Well, you're asking the wrong person because I left Calgary, but when I used to live there myself. It's something where, like, you hope so, and you got to hope so because you look at the one guy they traded away, or the two guys that are gone now, both signed long-term deals, and they have two guys that are going to be pending you So regardless, you just got to hope they're there. And even then, at the trade
Yeah.
deadline, you don't see a ton of major trades. This is one of the biggest trades we've ever seen in the salary cap era for a reason. It's very hard to make trades like this. The way the salary cap is structured, especially at the trade deadline. That's why you don't see these major deals ever happen.
Yeah, good point.
Or when, like Claude Giroux's getting traded, it's for like a lot of draft picks or a lot of things like that. That's super rare. So you got to hope that this all plays out. Florida as a whole, I think, is not a better team right now, but they've got a guy that could be a very good impact guy. And if they weren't going to get Huberdeau long term and they weren't going to be able to sign Uyghur, then you know what? Fine. They made a great deal there. But for Calgary, you got to hope those two guys stick around, because I don't think you're going to get the value you traded away to get them pretty much at any point, because of that. The trade like that is so rare.
Yeah, but Stephen, his hands were tied, so I don't think he could do much better than what he did. Of course,
no, it was a great trade. What I'm saying is, if they at the trade deadline, it's clear Huberdeau is not going to stick around. I don't think you're going to get a player of the quality of, let's say, a Matt Tkachuk. I think you're going to be basically downgrading unless you could sign him long term.
Yeah, good point. Hey, listen, I love your mic. I love the way his mic is. That's cool. And we got to get a little Gouche Live on ours with that hockey news. Great job, Stephen. I love it. Hey, listen, I want to go to you. Just before we let you go, I want to come back to you for a second. Your father's making the mention, not only the team, right? This locker room, I think, changes. I'm not a huge Tkachuk fan. His father, the way in Ottawa, there's just something about, maybe it's because they chew their mouth guard differently. I'm not sure, but I just think the room itself, Johnny Gaudreau, let's be honest, he is an incredible hockey player, but has been beaten up a little bit in Calgary because of his playoff experiences and that. He was really good last year. You can't blame him for what he accomplished in the playoffs, but there are some people saying that there was a little bit of noise about both Tkachuk and Gaudreau and their attitudes. Have you heard anything like that? Your father's bringing it up. Maybe it's something that you got to look at.
I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. I respect what Gaudreau and Tkachuk have done in their NHL careers, but we have kind of this stigma around American hockey players where they may be a little more full of themselves than, say, a Canadian. And then with Calgary losing 2 Americans, bringing in 2 Canadians, you think of that what
it's
you
automatic.
will. You think of that what you will, but when I look at the way Jonathan Huberdeau has carried himself throughout his NHL career in Florida, being a really humble guy, talks to the media well, just kind of keeps his mouth shut, just lets his work do all the talking for him. And I think that's what you need in a leader. And I think for Calgary, they get a pretty good leader in Huberdeau, and I think Uyghur is kind of in that same realm.
Hey, and your dad saying Lindholm will score 50. Calgary is better. Final word on the Calgary story. Want to hear from you, Stephen. Obviously, we've been kind of I'm not bashing Tkachuk and Gaudreau by any means. They are 2 very, very talented players. But this team, Calgary's got a bunch of really good parts still. Don't forget Tyler Toffoli's there. He could have another breakout season. And Lindholm, he could score 50 with that group. Huberdeau's an incredible, not only he can score, but he's a great playmaker. Final word on Calgary. Are they going to prove over what they did last year? Do you think they're going to be status quo, or do you think they'll dip?
Put it this way. They were probably going to beat Edmonton if Jacob Markstrom didn't have the worst 4 games of his career. I think Calgary was a much better team than what we saw in that series against the Oilers. I think they'll still be good, but just let's not forget. Yeah, they replaced one 100-point scorer with another, but they lost another, and that's a big loss. They did improve defensively. I wouldn't say they're a better team right now, but they're definitely not going to be hurting at this point. It looked like it was going to be pretty ugly until they made that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right, wrapping this up. Anything going on with the hockey news you want to tell us about? Any rumors, anything that we could sink our teeth into over the next couple of days?
Well, I'm just saying I'm excited to go to the World Juniors. Ryan Kennedy will be joining me halfway through, and it's going to be cool. 2 weeks in Edmonton. The weather is always good in Alberta in the summer.
Are you flying out there?
Flying out Monday.
All right, mate. If you get me a pass, I'm coming out.
Yeah, trust me, it was hard to get a pass for some reason.
All right, I'll work on it. I'll call Graham, see if I can get a couple of passes to come and watch a few games. Hey, listen, Stephen, obviously we'll get you on before the World Juniors, I hope. Thank you so much for always being there for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Ellis from the Hockey News.
Thanks, Stephen.
Always a pleasure having him on. He knows so much.
Yeah, just really keyed into the game. I mean, I always like having Steven on.
But he like not just keyed into the NHL game.
No,
He goes all the way. He can talk about guys that played for the Waxford. What were those guys? Markham Waxers. Remember that? Mark's way before your time. I think Steve Thomas played there, if I'm not mistaken. Waxers. I think it was called Waxers. Markham Wax. It doesn't matter. Hey, listen. Let's move on to something that's. Let's move on a little bit of some exciting news.
Yep.
You are going to be hosting your own show, well deserved. I'm not even involved in it because I know this much about NFL, but I'm going to come on the odd time because I am a huge Minnesota Viking fans, and yes, I've been to games in Minnesota. Okay, it was an outdoor facility called, I think, the Metropolitan. I was there for one of the conference finals. It was freaking cold.
Oh yeah,
cold.
Yeah. I think the Vikings they could do one of those teams that could always do well, but somehow don't. I mean, if you look at their offense with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook, those three pieces alone should win you a lot of games, but just for whatever reason, it just doesn't work.
Well, John, I know you're watching this. You'll remember this name. I still remember the great Fran Tarkenton. That was one of the arguably one of the great quarterbacks in the National Football League. They went to 4 Super Bowls and got nothing out of it. 4 losses. I think they're almost like what the Buffalo Bills are all about. Look at that, Tarkenton. Was he still playing yet? I think I'm a little older than you. Yeah, it was that. Bud Grant, one of the great coaches of all times in the National Football League, came to Winnipeg, won a couple of Grey Cups with it. So there's my little take on it. I will get a little bit more information about the Vikes, and you can bring me on. I may even do a preseason with you. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen, the first time seen, the logo for the new show.
Practice squad. My good buddy Henry and I is wearing. My good buddy Henry is wearing the Tim Tebow jersey on the right. He is a diehard New York Jets fan. I feel sorry for him every week.
He's got New York in it, so yeah, I see the.
There is not a lot to be excited for with the Jets right now. I mean, but then we've got a very exciting offseason. We had Tom Brady retire, then unretire. We have one.
He'll retire.
We have probably the best receiver in the NFL moved to the Oakland Raiders. We got a lot to talk about. And
did somebody go to jail or no? They just got suspended or a quarterback.
So there's both things. Both of those actually happened.
All right. Well, save it for the show.
Yeah.
That's going to be really exciting. Listen, you look younger than ever. Obviously, right now you got a playoff beard because the NFL is starting. I know you don't have an affiliate team yet. Like you are an NFLer, right? That's first. Can you come to my side? Can you come to the good side?
It's probably be the Bills or the Raiders, but I think I'm just. Proximity-wise, it's going to be the Bills.
I am not your father. Come on, you got to come onto the dark side. The Vikes, the purple people eaters. You know,
if I'm going to be a fan of an NFL team, it's not going to be a losing team. I'll tell you that.
It's a great stadium to watch a football game. Yeah. I've not been there, but I will do that.
No, but we are recording today at 3:00. The episode will be live at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be sure to send out the links to all the Gouche Live.
Well, I'm excited. Well. I'm going to be watching faithfully tomorrow morning. I won't be here to watch the live broadcast, but I will be on the future games. You're going to be talking not only about the game itself. Obviously, the practice squad is really cool. You're going to get in depth about the individual players. Obviously, the betting lines. Yeah. All that's a big part. Yeah. The NFL is a game, is a sport that just exudes betting.
Yeah, and every week we'll be doing our underdog pick of the week, our favorite pick of the week. We're going to do many specific segments, keep our track over the course of the year to see who comes out on top. But, we're really excited to get started today.
And I'm really excited to say right now, go Vikings, go.
We'll see.
All right. The producer, his new show called The Practice Squad. I'm looking forward to it. It's all about the NFL. And I'll tell you what, I've been listening to Jordan talk about the NFL. He knows his stuff. He knows his stuff in the NHL, but I think he's a little bit better when it comes to the NFL and certainly going to be an entertaining show. Hey, you've been watching Gouche Live right here at lunchtime at the Bottom Line. Come and check it out. 22 Front Street. It is fantastic. It's a slap shot away from the Hockey Hall of Fame. And then you can meet us and be a part of this great studio here called The Locker Room at the Bottom Line. Thank you for joining us.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as the Gouche, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.